No! No, 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 no.
We've not seen a move that smelly since someone said, shall we leave the fermented Baltic herring on the side to rest for a few hours before we eat it? Who played it? Well, it was only the world number one, magnificent Karl-sprung Deac technique. He was playing with the black pieces in Titillating Tuesday. It's online chess, elite grandmothers, and he was playing against Bogdan-Daniel Deac, but we don't want to get bogged down in the details here. Did he deactivate Magnus is what we really want to know. This game was an awesome one, and what a finish we had here. So we get d4 on the board here.
I mean, d4 move, it just wouldn't even cross my mind.
Magnus responds with knight f6, the explosive c4, and he only goes for the king's Indian defense now. Magnus Carlsen, look at Kasparov's face. He's proud. That's my boy. We get knight c3, bishop g7, and look at that trio of dragons guided by Daenerys. This is a mainline king's Indian defense. Bishop e2 stops any annoying pins. Magnus sticks the knight here. This isn't the main line, but it's a flexible system. This knight develops. He strikes at the center, and the camel toe pawn formation is not yet erected, but now it is. I was getting ahead of myself, and Magnus looks to gobble one of those
mushrooms.
So it's saved by Bogdan. The smelly f6 is played, usually a bit stinky because you open the king, but you drive back the bishop. Magnus plays this weird looking move, but we're going to see the point. Bogdan forgets which way his pieces are supposed to move, but after g5, the bishop dropping back, we're about to see the point because Magnus strikes with f5. He roars like a mighty chess lion, and he's trying to undermine that center, so it's supported here with f3, sets up the connect 4. What does Bogdan win? Only a used, signed John Deere lawnmower. Garry Kasparov used it extensively, and it was gifted to him by his former countryman or current countryman, although he lives in the US now, Christian Kurilla.
And trust me, it's an absolute banger. It's a game changer.
What a gift that is. We now see the move of c5 from Magnus. Now, of course, you could take en croissant here. It's compelled in many countries, but we don't see it played here. The position's on lockdown. Knight f6 played, h3, huge light squared structure, and look at this. b6, g4, f4. I mean, it's just absolute lockdown. In the words of Chandler Bing, could those bishops be any more disgusted with their prospects? We now see h4 trying to breathe life into the position. Don't take. g5 comes, forking the ponies. So Magnus goes knight f7 to capture here if needed. And now queen c2, ignore the question mark, not a bad move. We see takes here, bishop recaptures, and Magnus looks to spin around, exchange that nasty piece, and now look at this, an absolute crime against humanity. We get castles queenside, given the question mark by the all-powerful Overlord engine, but this should never be classed as a question mark, right? Anytime you castle queenside, you're an absolute boss. You can lean back, let your opponent know you're here to play, you're here to attack. Doesn't matter if you just hung a piece, you castled queenside. And we now see bishop g5 played, but access denied. We don't see that one leave the board. Leave Magnus with the bad bishop. He develops therefore a3, king g7, and b4. Magnus can make any more progress. We see this pawn pushed over there on the queen side, and now I absolutely love this. Magnus reaches out, grabs a water vase, chucks out the old flowers from the wedding there, and just drinks some of that beautiful flower minerally water. This is a big source of his power. What does he now do? Magnificent Flowerson plays rook h8, preparing to attack, and this is the thing, right? He was streaming in the take studio, so we've got these awesome clips, we've got his great insight into the games. A real treat, seriously. So we see rook dg1, that one's anticipated, the opening of the files. Queen e7 played, connecting the rooks. Bishop d3 now, and h5. Let's go, Magnus. We see takes, rook recaptures, these ones go into the blender, and after queen d1 creeping in like a snake on a Nokia 3310, this rook hits the open file, queen e1 played, and now the engine finds this crazy knight g3 move, sack a pawn but gain access here, dark squared grip, these pieces a bit dead, but these are deep concepts. This is blitz chess. Magnus just drops back with the knight, knight e2, queen d8, both players do a little bit of work with the kings now. Magnus invades, but he's repelled. This one hits the pawn, knight jumps back, bit of a draw offer, Magnus not having it. He careers round the corner now, barreling down the open file there, and after knight to c3 PO, the king marching around, king b3, queen h5, mini invasion. Bogdan now goes a4, and he's getting bogged down in the time trouble. 3.5 seconds to Magnus's 46, but what an absolute fighting lion he is. Watch this. Magnus offers the trade, accepted, a5 now played, rook h2, the opening of the a file, and you could go b5, apparently best, shut down this bishop, and maybe you invade with the queen here one day, but this one was played. Now king e7, bishop e2, and Magnus does take. It's a good move, sort of opens up that white king a little bit. Queen h4 now again looks for some mini invasion stuff. You just got to creep in these positions, right? Squeeze your opponent's kahunas, as Garry Kasparov was once advised when he couldn't break down Petrosian. The great Boris Spassky said it to him, in fact. Did a tribute to Boris just the other day. He very sadly died recently. And now whose move is it here? It's white's. Queen f1 stops some invasion stuff, and so Magnus just brings the ponies gallivanting into the game. King b3 played, king f7, queen a1 now looks for some invasion. Magnus sidelines the knight, hits the rook, it saves itself. We see captures, queen takes back, queen invades. Don't worry, the knight's not hanging. This is called a sniper for a reason. Long-ranged weapon, right? Supports that one. And Magnus, of course, pressuring these pieces. Don't move the bishop. Knight gets deleted. So queen a1 was played. Given the question mark, but ignore it, right? It's a really nice randomizer on low time. Knight g1 is strong though. You're hitting a bishop. If it moves, this one drops. So the queen has to come back. That sort of thing. But Magnus centralizes the Black Widow spider, hits this knight on d2, but now queen c1 is played, knight g5 here, and king c2, bit of shuffle. Magnus does the same, queen h1, and Bogdan, fair play to him. The guy's over 2700 classical. He's going toe to toe with Magnus here on seconds. He's caught Magnus up on the clock. He's now going to invade, go for perpetuals. We see queen e3 played, queen b1, pogo sticking back, hitting the pawn. If this one ever goes wandering. Now bishop h3 looks to creep in, queen h1, knight h5 heads for the square, so queen h2 anticipates, it jumps anyway, bishop saves itself, and knight f1 goes to Forktown, population bogged down, but okay, you can take, bishop recaptures, pawn is hit, we now see queen h8, ignoring it, take my pawn Magnus, not played. You can start going for a perpetual check here, won't dive into that. The knight, by the way, always an amazing defender of the king, but it does run out of squares to run to a little bit. But this wasn't played. Magnus didn't touch the pawn. Instead, he checked the king here, it went to b2, and now taking on f3, the best way to go, because you actually free up an important square for the flight of the king. It stops this one giving perpetual, because you just run all the way down the board onto the f2 square. If takes doesn't actually help, black is doing well here, but okay, we run back. We get queen d2, check. You could go bishop c2, but it would be a terrible move because you walk into this pin, but Magnus was anticipating it because after this one, he already pretty much pre-moved or semi-pre-moved bishop d3, but not the best as you can see. The check comes, king h5, check, and now if you keep bouncing like this, it's just a draw. But of course, Magnus wants to push, as well as take to win the tournament. You've got to get results here. So he plays king h6, not a good move because now you're on a dark square, the white queen can check and then pick up this vital pawn at the base of the chain. What did Nimzovich say about that, right? And this is running dangerously. King h4 from Magnus, absolute stinker because you can just go check, excuse me, And after the king goes, an entire piece drops. That's game over. But missed. They're blitzing on seconds, right? They get a second back per move. That's called excrement. So we see takes here. Still a good move. Queen e3 stops this one sliding to d4. And now we get queen f5. The knight does take on f3. Bishop captures. Sorry, check first. Then bishop captures. Given the question mark, but let's ignore it. The lines are just wild. You know, you have to go queen c5 here apparently to keep a balance. Accept you're a piece down. No clue why that's possible. Didn't follow the whole line. Maybe there's a perpetual right attack on the king. Presume that must be it. But Magnus, of course, recaptures the bishop. Who doesn't do that? But now you're completely losing if you go d6, fine, that's okay. Queen f2. Now let me run back actually. I'm talking rubbish. I am tired. Very young baby. So let's say you check first. Sorry. This is good. King goes somewhere. Now the queen comes back. This was the line I was looking at, as you can see. So you centralize the queen with a check. This is really the point. And the king is now safe. c4, c3, all guarded. You can always march up this way. And the pawn's just running, unstoppable. The f-pawn counterplay is too slow. So this was really the maneuver to find. But d6 immediately played. So natural. Push 'em, baby, as Yasser would say. But now queen f2 is played. Going for the counterplay. And now, a real bad one. Again, you should check right. It's the way to go to keep some advantage here. But what do we see? Keep your eye on Ival Barovic over here. I mean, it's like one of those Bond villains. Just opens the trap door here. d7. Look at him go there into the shark pit down below. Why is it the double question mark of doom? Because you can go queen c2 check. And where's the king going? Where's it running to? It's getting absolutely hunted here. But this is the absolute best part of the game, right? Because surely everyone and his dog is playing king b4. You know, you stay with the knight, you keep it protected. But only temporarily. Because then black checks, king goes, knight drops. Okay, you can check first if you want to get really fancy. Sorry, is that a checkmate? Yeah, that's a checkmate. But, okay, fine. That's even a checkmate. But regardless, the knight was going to drop, right? Horrible, horrible. But we don't see king b4. Bogdan, what an absolute tricky-dicky legend, plays king a3 here. And he tricks the world number one, Magnus Carlsen, who should take the knight. And then it leads to a checkmate in a lot more moves that I won't go through, but it should be a checkmating position. But instead, Magnus plays queen b2 check.
No! No, 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 no. Okay. 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 Yeah, obviously this was just made.
Wow, that is stinkier than an Oslo herring market on a bad Sunday. Unbelievable blunder. Botez Gambit. I'm not sure what it was I just said, but after king captures here, of course, what else? Magnus Carlsen loses the game after giving his queen. But what a fight it was. We love a King's Indian, and especially a finish like that. Hope you enjoyed this one. Smash subscribe if you did, and have a look at the video on screen if you want to see Hikaru giving his queen, but in unbelievable circumstances. Thanks very much for watching, and see you soon.